And now we are going to talk about why I am wrong about direct brand search in LSAs. And I'm just kidding. I'm not wrong, but Conrad and I are going to fight it out. We've talked about this before. It keeps coming up. Conrad, why are we talking about this again?
Well, let's talk about what we're talking about before we talk about it so people know what we're talking about. Direct brand search in LSA basically was Google's gross way of generating more money out of your pocket when they quietly opted everyone into direct brand search, which basically means an LSA will trigger when someone looks for your brand, not just for what you do.
So we got to zoom out even more because let's assume someone just landed here out of nowhere. They have no idea what this is. So what's an LSA?
Oh, we don't have to talk about that. Like, if you don't know what an LSA, you should hang up.
All right, hang up.
We just lost 5% of our audience. The LSA are ads triggered by keywords that when they started out were a pay per lead, pay per phone call to your business, which seems like a really, really good thing. But what happens with the economics of that, when you start throwing your brand in, the value of that lead is very different than if that is someone who is searching for Family Lawyer Detroit instead of Smith & Jones divorce lawyers, right?
Okay. And I have said in the past, my position is generally, first, my position is you should do this for your own firm, because whatever I'm about to say and whatever Conrad is about to say may not be applicable for your firm economics. But my position has been, if the economics work, if your cost per client and your volume is making money for you, and you're not a huge brand, right? You're not, I don't know what the tipping point percentage is. You should probably turn the brand search on, because you're going to benefit from the idea that when Google gets paid, they're more likely to show your ads. So Google lead payment per impression is improved with brand search on. And so that can actually help you capitalize on more volume from non-brand.
Okay. So when we talked about this and we asked about it, you said most of the time you have direct brand search turned on. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say that that's a reflection of most of our clients. It's still, I shouldn't even say that, and it's been a while since I've said that, so I should go back and look. But my hunch is that for our clients that aren't big offline media buyers, that aren't big brand builders, we have it turned on, but it's still case by case, because Google does not segment your LSAs by brand and non-brand. You have to use multi-source attribution and ask people how they heard about you. And so then you can be like,
you're getting to the punchline.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, go ahead.
Out of all my LSAs, how many of them are reporting that they were referred by a friend or some other quote unquote brand source?
So when Gyi and I initially had this conversation, we're going to come back to this brand attribution conversation. We've talked about it a lot, but this is a great example of where this is really, really important. Gyi said that we by and large, and most of the firms that we work with, and most of the firms that I talk to, have LSA, the direct business search, turned off. So I went to LinkedIn and did a highly scientific poll to try and prove that I was right. And what we found was a mismatch of who knows. So we asked the question: if you are running Google LSAs, did you disable direct business search? 42% of people said that they disabled direct business search. 37% of people said they did not disable direct business search. And a full 21% of people have no idea. So if you fall into the 21% of people who don't know what the heck you're bidding on, go turn your LSAs off, because you should not be driving while under the influence of Google.
And one of the 37% no's on there of the 19 participants was me. So this is about as scientific as it can get.
This is not scientific, but the point being, I was fascinated that there was a discrepancy, and my perspective on this is, if you are bidding on your brand It is overall incentivizing Google to show your brand up for whenever it possibly can, because they're not telling you how much you're paying for that lead, which is not really a lead that LSAs are generating. It's a lead that other things have created, and they're just capturing and taking credit for that lead, like all of the scummy agencies who have been bidding on your name through pay-per-click or calling all of your Google Business Profile inbound calls their effort.
I have a question for you.
Hit me.
Do you have any clients that you buy brand for on search in any context? Yes.
I would say every single one.
That you buy, that you're paying for the attorney's brand name.
Absolutely.
Okay. So your big issue with this on LSAs is that you don't have transparency into it.
So let me take the first derivative of your comment. I think it is the concern is because we don't have transparency into that, Google's incentive is to screw me. And they can't do that. But
that's also true. It's also true on regular ads.
Well, so what's happened with regular ads, and I've got the graphs, I'll find this study somewhere, but we've seen the cost per conversion, which is a cost per lead for branded queries, have gone from, and this is over a period of, I want to say 7 years. It used to be $5 per conversion. It is now $91 per conversion.
Right.
So that has increased almost 20x. However, the economics of that, I am still okay with. Mostly okay with.
So works, right?
It makes sense to capture that, right? Because I know. However, I think it is naive to make the assumption that the mix would be similar in a local services ads environment where you don't have that level of transparency and it is a completely opaque system. And let me use an extreme example for this. If you have, I'm going to use round numbers because it's easy. If you have a $10,000 budget in LSAs, okay, and Google can figure out how to spend all of that budget on your brand, they will do so because that leaves the non-branded queries, the budget of everyone else who is bidding. It
Not
increases.
buying brand, right. Here's another way to just what you just said just made me think of something else.
Yeah.
So if you're a firm and you're buying brand queries on Google Ads, and your cost
yourself.
your cost
Not
for yourself,
not the Angel Reyes approach.
Yeah, not that example. You're buying your own brand.
Okay.
And your cost per qualified brand lead is equal or more than what your overall brand lead is, or your overall LSA lead cost per qualified lead is. You might conclude turn brand on because you're on a per lead basis. You're still spending more for each lead, or you're saying less for each lead than you are buying your brand queries on. And presumptively, your non-brand leads are way higher. Your non-brand qualified leads on Google Ads are way higher. And so now your entire set of LSA leads on a qualified lead basis is less than the cost of your brand leads on Google Ads. You should assume you should turn those on, right?
So here's the nuance to your philosophical setup.
I love this. Love this stuff.
It depends on your budget.
Totally.
And so my argument on this, vociferous, aggressive argument is twofold. Number one, if they're looking for your brand, the likelihood that they don't find you because you didn't have brand turned on an LSA, that person is so stupid you don't want them as a client. And that is going to happen less than 1%, less than 1% of the time. Okay?
Yeah, but so that your example, yes, but what I would throw in there just to monkey wrench with this a little bit is it's very difficult to know whether or not for that brand search that showed the rich LSA experience with the reviews and everything, that motivated someone to contact you and hire you that otherwise might not have.
Fair. So like we're not using data here, we're using theory. My perspective is it's unlikely that someone is looking for your brand and is not going to connect with you because the LSA isn't there. And you're going to say, how do you know?
Well, no, I'm going to say, why do you buy pay-per-click media then? Because that's the same point. They should be able to find you organically.
No, agreed. So, but
So why
the
are you buying?
nuance
So why are
here,
you paying? Why are you buying
we
brand
buy
on
pay-per-click
pay-per-click?
because I am okay with that cost. I'm decreasingly okay with that cost because
Right.
I am like, it is a conversion cost, not a marketing cost. And
Yeah, you're
it's
paying a
often,
premium. Yeah.
you're paying a premium for that, but like it is a conversion, and I'm okay with that. But I'm going to go back to the second part of my point. If you have a finite budget, okay, and you eat up some of that budget, half of that budget, yeah, and when you have no idea how much of the budget you're eating up with direct brand search, but if you eat up half of that budget on people who are already looking for you, that means whatever the other $5,000 that generated 2 clients last month, you're now missing out. The opportunity cost on that is the additional 2 costs that budget would have gained if you had not run direct brand search. And that's why for me, when you're dealing with a budget, that is a problem. And then the reality nuance of LSAs is most people have their budget sets to more than they can ever pay in a month because they think that that's how they're going to get more clicks and more action out of that. So that's another side of this many faceted coin.
Yeah, no, this is great. And again, for people that got lost in that coin, the thing to do here is if you're inclined to test this stuff, turn your LSAs on, turn brand search on, ask every single person who comes through your LSAs whether or not how they heard about you or who they thank for referring you, and then bucket between the ones that came from a quote unquote branded search or branded lead, someone that's like, no, I've been watching your commercials for 50 years. Put those in one bucket. And then the ones who are like, I just did a Google search, I just randomly searched, put those into a second bucket. And then, so now you got your brand and non-brand loosely segmented, and do the economics on those and look at the cost pers. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you, Conrad, is, do you think I'm wrong about this idea that having brand on impacts visibility for non-brand in ads? Do you think that that's a thing, or do you think that that's not a thing?
For those of you who think Gyi and I are married, you can try this tactic with your spouse and see just what happens. Let me just repeat what you're saying and tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think
it's not so much about me being wrong. That was a bad way of saying it.
No, it's fine. I didn't need to.
I'm curious of whether or not you think that having brand on impacts non-brand visibility.
I do not.
Okay.
However, what I really believe, so and like I have a level of certainty on that. My higher level of certainty is, and this is a very unscientific way to go about dealing with LSAs. If you are struggling to get LSAs to show up, change something. Shake the bottle, right? Change something, because that seems to be the way to make things work. And the contrapositive is true. If LSAs are working for you right now, don't even log in. Just let them run until they stop working.
No, book the leads. Book the leads in the platform.
Sorry, but yeah, okay, totally fair. But don't monkey with your bidding strategies. Like, don't change your strategy if it's working. And it really seems to me that the rhyme or reason is responding to change, and that's what I really feel like. So, and the reason I answered your question in the affirmative, or in the negative, in that, like, I don't think that turning brand on is going to improve your performance on non-branded queries, is because we have so many clients who are running LSAs with the brand off, and it is working.
Here's another question for you.
Go.
Do you think buying brand in Google Ads in the same account and or campaign impacts your non-brand performance?
This may come across as extremely naive. I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Agree to disagree.
Okay.
And the reason is at a very even loose level is that the engagement signals with your brand ads, depending on how they're structured in the account and in the campaigns, will signal to Google that, hey, show more of these ads because it's making us more money. And I think that holds.
So you're saying, depending on how you have your brand, your PPC campaign structured, you can improve your click-through rate through branded ads to have the perspective
to impact the non-brand. Yeah,
to impact
improve
the
quality
ads.
score, to improve ad relevance for non-brand.
I'm going to get into the details of how that setup would have to work. In order to do that, you would have to ambiguate. I don't know if that's a contrapositive to disambiguate, but it feels like it should.
This feels very MBA.
To conflate, to literally put those things together in order to conflate the quality score, right? Which would artificially raise the quality score for non-branded queries by combining those things. And then when you conflate those two things, you have a difficulty in separating out your branded versus non-branded queries. That's what I don't like about it.
Well, no, you could still see in the search. Anyway, we're getting really nerdy on this. I think the interesting thing to me about all this is forgetting about how the strategic execution, all this kind of stuff is. We both agree that Google's main incentive is to make money, whether it's through show ads that are getting clicks and show ads that are generating leads for us. And
regardless of how good it is for the client,
yes,
or the end user,
they do not care if they do not care about your return on ad spend. They do not care about your profitability. But if that's true, it seems to me that they're building a machine that, at least in part, takes in signaling that when Google makes more money, compared to other advertisers, they want to show the advertisers ads that are making them the most money, and brands that are generating click volume, both in ads and LSAs, do that for them. And so they want to show those ads more. And that's why I draw the conclusion that they show your non-brand more when you've got brand turned on. But again, that's all totally anecdotal. And the only other thing that I could say is that just kind of the inverse of what you said, we've got clients where it's like the economics are still so good on LSAs, even though we ask, and most of those still have, in the examples I'm talking about, most of them are non-brand. They're not saying I was referred to you through the LSA channel for the most part. And even if they are, I'm with you. I pay the premium on the brand as long as it's not getting to the point where you're like, okay, our brand leads, our qualified brand leads, our brand clients now are costing us, as much as our non-brand. Like that's now you've tipped the scales. But you're getting $100, you're paying $100 premium on a brand lead, and you're doing volume. You're talking about nickels and dimes, in my opinion. So now, to your point, small budget. Yeah, can't do that.
Well, it's all within, but to me, it's they're not optimizing at the campaign level to get as much out of an individual campaign as they possibly can. I think they're optimizing across the entire system. So the more money that they can waste on brand, the more money is left over to artificially drive up the prices of non-brand. That's the thing that I think that they're doing. And this is why
makes sense.
Yeah. All right. We should conclude this with we're not sure.
Yeah, we're not sure any of this. Again, like this has been like a recurring theme on the show. Look at your own data. Look at what's going on with your firm's data. I mean, again, we're going deep on all this stuff. And my hunch is that a lot of listeners are like, don't even have multi-source attribution locked down yet, especially throughout their intake process. So go fix that issue first before you go turn your brand search on, especially if you're doing offline media buys, then guess what? Your premium, to Conrad's point, your premium is going to be super high.
This is the takeaway. Gyi said this earlier. It's the dual source attribution for your LSAs. You should know at a pretty pretty detailed level, was this a brand? Was this someone looking for you, or was it someone looking for what you do? And if you don't know that, you're guessing just as much as Gyi and I are right now.
Exactly. What a great way to tie it all together. And with that, we're going to thank our listeners, as usual, for tuning into this episode of Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Thanks to Nick. Thanks to everyone who listens and leaves reviews. If you are new here, please do subscribe and drop us a review, comment. We love hearing from you, topic suggestions, questions, ideas. We're very grateful for you. Till next time, Conrad and Gyi for Lunch Hour Legal Marketing.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round.